Welcome back to another episode with ByrdAdatto. Today, as you can see, we are still in our homes here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. It is Monday, and we've had a lot of different videos we shot in the last couple of weeks. Most of it that we seem to get a lot of attention is on the CARES Act. Now, the CARES Act, for those who aren't familiar with it, is the Stimulus Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. Just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it, Michael?
That's why I just refer to it as the CARES Act.
There you go. Well, and so we've had other videos on this, but in this particular case, it finally became law on Friday. And again, for those who weren't really following with or have seen our previous videos, high level, there's a whole bunch of different economic packages built into this, either for individuals themselves, for hospitals, and or for small businesses. And there's a piece of this, Michael, that a lot of people are really paying attention to on the business side, especially small businesses, which is called the Paycheck Protection Program. Now, this is very similar to your traditional SBA loan concept where you go to an SBA lender and you can get some certain funds to help pay your staff, landlords, other expenses for running the business. But that's kind of where it ends when I say traditional. And Michael, I think we can use a different word for than that.
Yeah, no, I mean could end up being a lifeline for small businesses, and really, in effect, if certain things are followed, this could be more like a grant than a loan. And what I mean by that is that these funds that are loaned, if certain parameters are followed, will be forgiven and not taxable. And so, other elements that make it feel more like a grant than a loan, particularly in the SBA program, is that it does not require personal guarantees. There's no prepayment penalties, and the application process doesn't appear that it's going to have to go through the traditional borrowing of money experience that we've all experienced, and it's really tends to be even more difficult under the SBA program as far as the underwriting process. This is designed to be much faster.
But we're hearing from a lot of people, Mike, a lot of different thoughts about how to get this money fast. And what are your thoughts when you hear someone saying, oh, just go here and give me the information, I can have it to you within a week?
Yeah, so Brad and I just had a call with a high up with a big bank on at the bank side for being able to start writing these loans, and they're waiting on direction from the SBA. There are rules that have to go out that will give them direction on how to process the loans. And the earliest date we've heard that they'll even be ready for us, small businesses, is this Friday. I've also heard the 11th. And so, word of caution, there are people who are opportunistic, and I hear of emails going out say that they can help you get your loan process, get you funded this week. And I'd be really careful, because the conversations we've had are people with authority and a lot of experience. And from what we understand, every bank is in the same boat. They're waiting on these SBA rules before they're ready to start helping small businesses.
Yeah, I think real quickly, that goes back to what we've said in the past. A lot of laws are happening just in the last few weeks. But one of the things is anyone can read the law. It's how the regulators will end up enforcing the law. And that's why the SBA is so important to get this information to the bankers, who they can make a determination on how to get these loans. So I think the most important piece is definitely start reaching out to your SBA lenders if you're interested in joining this particular program, because they're the only ones that will be able to give funds for that. But there's so many pieces to this, Michael, and I know we're trying to not spend this much time on it, but one of the pieces is that if you want to get this loan, it has a lot to do with your payroll. So a lot of people are wondering, well, what happens if I lay off people? Or what happens if I'm thinking about laying off people? Will I still qualify for the loan, and how does this impact me? This is kind of an interesting area of the law.
Yeah, I would say most of my conversations over the weekend is, when do I need to rehire my people or bring their payroll up? I don't want to get penalized from this quote grant that's coming from the government. And again, we're trying to sift through an 800-page law that doesn't have rules on it yet. But the best we can tell, it looks like there's a 30-day window from the passage of the bill for people to rehire or bring the salaries back up, and it will be treated as if there wasn't a reduction or in the workforce or in compensation, and thus wouldn't be penalized. So that's what it's looking like right now. When the SBA rules come out, we'll of course keep everyone updated. But that should be really helpful for those who are trying to manage cash flow right now, trying to figure out when is their timeline to bring people back if they're not open for business yet and they want to realize the full benefit of this grant. And the bill was signed by President Trump on Friday, so that puts you around April 26th, which is a Sunday, as that 30-day window. So, I would target that Friday before as kind of your end date for that, unless we learn something different when the rules are released.
Yeah, another question that we get asked is, prior to this law being passed, there are other loan packages out there. So you might have heard of, we've previously talked about the economic injury disaster loan, which some of our clients are trying to use that money to help keep them afloat. And so now there's a lot of curiosity. Well, if I already got that or entered that program and got cash, which is probably very little of our clients may have done that, but may have tried to enter into that, can I still go forward and try to apply under this new program under the CARES Act?
Yeah, and last week we were even, telling people to slow down because it looked like you couldn't do both. What it does appear is that if you did get a loan under that program, that you could roll that into the Paycheck Protection Program loan, and so it's not going to cut you off from being able to do it. There's a whole host of issues under that loan. I think people are having the websites crashing and are not getting any feedback on that process. But it does appear that both would work, and you could roll it in. And just, it looks, we're telling people to, plan for 30 days before you're going to get funding under the Paycheck Protection Program, only because, that's really fast for the government. I know they're trying to move really fast, and a lot has to happen in a really short amount of time just for them to be able to process our loans.
Yeah, and then I think the last piece that, to kind of sign off on is, as Michael kind of mentioned, this is acting more like a grant. So there are certain pieces that you have to abide by. So if you get these funds, you can only spend them in certain ways. You're obviously going to have some tracking process to show how you spent these funds. So remember that it's a twofold street. You get the money, and then if you have to use the money in certain ways. If you don't follow that exact way, they will then require you to pay it back. There will be some deferred time frame where you start making payments, but it looks like it's going to be rolled into some type of note for those funds that you use outside of this grant piece, for lack of a better term, that it'll be rolled about a 10-year note with about somewhere under 4% interest. So those are the kind of things to keep in mind. There's so many aspects to this. I think we probably could spend 45 minutes alone just discussing this PPP, excuse me. And so because of that, we know we're trying to keep this videos a little bit shorter, that we want to make sure that we at least give you some high level pieces. But, I think Michael, I'm going to start with our biggest takeaway is, make sure you start reaching out to your SBA lender if you already have one, or find one in which you can work with. Because I know just based on our call today, they are overwhelmed. And even once they flip the light switch on where they can start lending these cash, you want to be really prepared. I know Jessica talked about this at length in one of our prior videos. So, make sure you start thinking about the things that you need to get to them so that they can start getting the money quickly. And Mike, I don't know if you have any last minute thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like the banks are going to be prioritizing their current customers first. So if you have a banking relationship with someone who can write SBA loans, I would definitely start reaching out now.
All right. Well, thank you much for sharing your time with us again, and we look forward to speaking to you soon.
All right. Thank you.